We're Team One, and the company that we did our project on is Zoom Video Communications. My name's Devin Scoffel.
My name is Ruslan Bagdasarian.
I'm Jennifer Nguyen.
I'm Mariela Martinez.
And I'm Peter Cook.
For Zoom in the video conference industry, there's a couple problems that it has. The first and biggest one is the fact that it doesn't have any unique, it's not unique and doesn't have any proprietary features. Everything in the industry is relatively similar, and there's nothing that quite stands out. So an important thing right now is brand. But also another problem in the industry is privacy concerns, specifically for Zoom. They've been having issues lately with privacy breaches, and that's the thing that's been in the news lately about them. And that's specifically leading to a large loss in clients and not able to fully get a capture of the market share that they should be getting. So there's a few solutions for them. One is to focus on a blue ocean, set themselves apart from their competitors to better, get in the marketplace and grab market share. And another thing is really focusing on security and making sure that customers feel secure and their privacy is protected. And that'll enable them to gain more customers. So there's a couple different opportunities in that. There's some more features they can add to better set themselves apart in the environment. Can also invest into marketing, which they haven't done before, and help show their privacy and the strides that they've made in that since the issues first started for Zoom. In terms of products, Zoom has three major products. They all are intertwined together, and those are Zoom Meetings, Zoom Phones, and Zoom Rooms. So those just intertwine in different ways. Zoom Meetings are the typical ones you see with the video conferencing. The Zoom Phones don't have that visual aspect, but are done on an audio form. And then Rooms are the implementation of hardware combined with the existing software. In terms of where this is sold, in terms of different industries for customers, this is in education, finance, government, small business. But all companies have moved online now with COVID, and more companies have, even for the past years, have focused more on doing work online. And that's really what has enabled this industry to grow. But there's a lot of challenges in the industry, and that includes, there's a lot of changes, and that includes technology advances as video conferencing becomes more commonplace and the industry expands. There's a lot of outside markets, like a lot of outside factors like COVID-19 that affect the market.
Yeah, so the company was founded in 2011 by CEO Eric Yuan. But in 2013, they actually launched and became public. And then they became publicly traded in 2019. And so far, their stock performance has been really good, beginning with 20 million shares valued at $36 in April when they first became traded. And they are currently still making a profit, and it has increased in valuation because of what is going on currently in the world. So hurdles that they are facing is long-term growth after COVID-19, because we don't know how things will turn out. Will they continue to be successful when businesses go back into meeting in person? And then also something that I mentioned earlier was security issues, government battles, lawsuits, things like that really can influence stock performance. And then we have our three top management. We have Eric Yuan, which I mentioned before. He's the CEO. One of the things he mentions always is delivering happiness to our users. Your happiness is my happiness. And he keeps this in mind whenever he's making a business decision, because he wants to make sure that he's making the right choice for its current customers and their future customers. He was previously the VP of engineering at Cisco WebEx, and we gave him a grade of A+. And then we have Brendan Edelson, which is the CTO, which is the technical officer, because he brings a lot of innovation, a lot of the technology insights, and moving them forward. He previously was actually the program analyst and VP of special operations before receiving a CTO promotion. And then we have Janine Pulaski, which is a CMO, which she has a lot of experience in marketing and management. She previously was the head of marketing of Cisco, and she got promoted as well and led to her new job at Zoom.
All right, so now that we've taken a look at management, products, et cetera, and market performance, we're going to take more of a look at the intangible framework that Zoom operates under or with. So cultural approach, core values, and support are all fairly standard for most companies, with the exception of the last bullet point in cultural approach, which is culture of delivering happiness. The word happy or happiness or any of its derivatives are fairly rampant throughout Zoom culture. The CEO, Eric, seems very intent on keeping people happy and delivering that to them wherever they are. That aside, the two things that stand out initially in an examination of their organizational structure are their performance, given that their product isn't particularly proprietary or new. The second is the fact that they are a very centralized company, but they have two specific aspects or two specific components of their company that are decentralized. That's their sales team, which is fairly common. Sales teams tend to be kind of decentralized, whether you go to Boeing or a car dealership, et cetera. And the other is their Zoom phone team. These departments tend to work remotely and across time zones, so there's an element of geographic decentralization there, but also those companies get to make pivot level decisions. They're able to make decisions without having, C-level executives looking over their shoulder. Moving on to the next slide. So their organizational design has elements of the traditional pyramid to it, but as I mentioned, it's got some decentralized components. So it's kind of a hybrid between a matrix and a horizontal type of framework. So the components of their organizational design that have helped them get to where they are now are their adaptability, their integrity. Their adaptability is kind of their ability to meet current capacity requirements as a result of an increase in demand on the demand side of the market. And their integrity in their willingness to own up to and implement measures to take care of recent security concerns. I think three of the most recent acquisitions they have are AWS and Azure, which helps them to increase and meet capacity demand and its recent increase. And the second is their acquisition of Keybase, a end-to-end encryption service that's going to help them deal with the recent legal ramifications of their security problems. They're extremely efficient. They enable customer efficiency through collaboration features, which basically means that their software is super easy to use. Trust relationships that are built between management and teams transfer into relationships of trust between the company and its customers, whether they're selling their product or, like is in the case of this class, we're just using it for free.
The industry environment. Zoom is far from being a first mover in the video conferencing industry altogether, but as of late, they've definitely been one of the most, most talked about and most well-known, become one of the most well-known brands in many ways, starting from, the widespread use in education from elementary school through all the way through the university level. The company itself, as Peter mentioned, and many others before him, that they've had a lot of issues in terms of security issues, and many governments and school districts have actually banned the use of Zoom because of that. So they're going to have to work pretty hard to kind of regain that share there. But one of the biggest things that Zoom needs to focus on kind of moving forward is growth in the VR space, where many companies are kind of striving towards that, to be able to provide as close to an in-person experience as possible while still remaining virtual. And definitely COVID-19 has been a very big driving factor in that decision. So as we've talked about before, many of the key industry players also partner with Azure, AWS, and Oracle to deliver their services via cloud platform. Some of the customer drivers are really convenience and ease of use and low cost. And in many cases, it really depends on, for individuals at least, what their company uses or what their friends and like social networks really use for the most part. The good thing about Zoom is that it can be used cross-platform, so it doesn't matter whether you're using an Android device or an iOS device, tablet, Windows machine or Apple machine, it'll work seamlessly across all those platforms. So one of the biggest things in order for Zoom to stay relevant, in our opinion, is to kind of work on that blue ocean strategy of looking across into the future and enter that VR space to kind of, I guess, become a first mover within that niche. That'll definitely help set them apart and will open up many more opportunities for people. So one of the things that we discussed was breaking into, for example, like virtual home tours with VR, for example, or virtual classrooms with VR, virtual meetings for corporate settings and stuff like that. From a CSR standpoint, Zoom does have a big focus on that. So from their employees to other shareholders like local schools, municipalities, and even lower income families in the community around them, they've definitely done a lot to provide them with services, for example, for kids to be able to use it for school, et cetera, et cetera.
So here we have a competitive analysis between the companies Zoom and WebEx, which is one of their main competitors. Just from looking at this table, WebEx is arguably better than Zoom in terms of pricing and market share. Zoom is slightly more expensive and has a lower market share than WebEx currently does. However, Zoom is more popular in terms of its casual use and smaller business settings. We are seeing people use it more for casual meetings with friends and families, and it's very common in schools as well. You don't really see schools using WebEx these days. And this makes sense because Zoom takes pride in being extremely easy to use compared to other video conferencing tools. People have reported that WebEx is slightly harder to use than Zoom. It's not much different, but there are some differences here and there. WebEx is also generally better for larger enterprises since the features are built more appropriately for business settings. And after reading some reviews for both of these companies in terms of their customer service, WebEx seems to have the more consistent customer service in the sense that they generally produce happier customers through their customer service. Some customers report that Zoom takes a long time to respond. We've seen reports where people say that it's taken weeks for them to respond, but we could give them the benefit of the doubt given the current pandemic situation. And here is a SWOT analysis of Zoom. We're just going to be going over the key points in each of the SWOT categories. The biggest strength that Zoom has over the other competitors is brand recognition. And of course, this was possible due to the increased usage of COVID-19, as well as the partnerships that they've established with schools and universities. In terms of weaknesses, as Devin stated before, there's nothing proprietary about the product itself, not to mention the amount of competition that Zoom has to go against. Again, WebEx is just one of the many competitors that they have to worry about. There are some opportunities for improvement for Zoom. This includes tightening security and privacy controls. Since that is one of Zoom's biggest weaknesses, they should definitely be working on that. There could also be an improvement to the app on mobile devices and tablets. One of the biggest threats to Zoom is how there are many alternatives available. This includes meeting in person or simply having a phone call, since you don't exactly have to see somebody's face to get your point across. It also doesn't really help that Zoom lacks in differentiation, but it's sort of inevitable since there's only so much you can do to make a video conferencing tool unique to all the other ones that already exist. Again, just security issues and government regulations will always be a threat to a company like Zoom. And if people realize that Zoom is not a completely safe software to use, then that will harm Zoom's overall reputation.
Yeah, so on the left, you'll see Zoom's willingness to pay is greater than WebEx. We did a comparison between the WebEx Starter, which is a plan that starts at $13.50, and the Zoom Pro, which starts at $14.99. We made them go against like feature and functionality. Zoom got a 5 and WebEx got a 4. For setup, Zoom also got a 5 just because it's a lot easier to set it up like compared to WebEx Starter. And then for price, WebEx actually did a lot better because they just were a little bit cheaper, 50 cents cheaper. And so yeah, and then we have our cost compared to WebEx on the right. And you'll actually see that Zoom was a little bit more costly on the sales and marketing, just because they don't have that network. They don't have a lot of distribution or connections compared to WebEx, who has been in the market for a lot longer. And then for the total cost of revenue, WebEx also has a little bit more compared to Zoom. And so yeah, so that wraps up Team 1 presentation.
Thank you.